Sandy. You're making your rounds a little earlier than usual, aren't you?
Oh, Mrs. Dunsley, ever since your husband announced he's taking that big job in London, he's become a real Simon Legree about getting things ship-shape.
The point is, Tom, that there wouldn't be any flack from the press if the Treasury Department's PR people said up front that my appointment to the World Bank isn't going to create a conflict of interest. Well, that's why my first move was to put my firm into a blind trust. Right. I thought you were going to see about closing down the beach house. We leave for London in 3 days.
I have to stop by St. Angela's first.
All right. All right. Well, give me 5 or 6 weeks to get my feet wet at the World Bank, and then you can set up all the in-depth interviews you want, okay? Bye.
Did you forget to make out the check?
Check.
For the television sets, the girls at St. Angela's? You may not realize it, but those sets are just as important as any of the billion-dollar loans you make.
Darling, I'm very proud of the work you're doing at St. Angela's, but don't you think that contributing color TV sets and all those other frills to a home for unwed mothers makes life there just a little too attractive for your fallen angels?
And what would you have me do with them, hmm? Take them out and stone them to death like they did in the olden days?
You know what else they did in the olden days?
What?
Well, the one with the muscles threw the one with the long, fluttering eyelashes over his shoulder and took her to his cave.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm. Sometimes they weren't seen again for weeks.
Weeks, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, excuse me.
Oh, it's all right, Sandy. I have just realized that my wardrobe is incomplete. See, I'm going to have to rush out and buy myself a pair of long, fluttering eyelashes.
Well, like I always taught my girls, Treasure, never keep a John waiting. Or he might take his action somewhere else.
Look, I ask you not to call me Treasure anymore. Here.
Is this bonds?
I've given you my money. I've sold most of my jewelry. I'm sorry, but that's the best that I can do.
I don't know anything about this kind of paper.
They're bearer bonds, fully negotiable. There's not a fence in the world that wouldn't give you 65% of their face value.
So I net out of this about 30,000, huh?
Yeah. You add it to the rest of the money I've already given you, and I figure that makes us even.
When was it you said you were heading for London? End of the week?
Yeah, Friday.
She'll give you plenty of time to dip into the well one more time.
No, I won't. I won't.
Look, Treasure, maybe this guy you hooked loves you enough to say, so what, if I tell him you were once one of my top stars. But what about the newspapers? Hell, he'd be lucky to end up as dog catcher after the circus they'd make of it.
You're never gonna stop.
Look, I took you out of a dime store soda fountain and made you the flashiest trick in the business. Now you're Mrs. God Rocks and I end up in the gutter. You owe me, you dig?
Look, you gotta give me some time. I can't go back there today.
Well, nobody's rushing you. Tomorrow will be just fine. And, try and grab a bigger handful of bonds this time. About $100,000 worth, and I'm out of your life for good.
Then I put the bonds in the cart and started off on my rounds, same as I always do.
Okay. Thank you, Miss Wright. I'll be off for now. Well, Barnaby, Looks like your insurance company's getting off easy on this one.
Well, I assure you that California Meridian Insurance Company isn't exactly doing a jig over losing $53,000.
Could have been a lot worse. There must be over $1 million worth of bonds in here. If it was one of the employees, why would they settle for a mere $53,000 worth from Miss Wright's card?
Well, if it was one of the employees, maybe they didn't have access to this room.
Or it could be a simple case of the bonds being mislaid. Are you sure these premises were searched thoroughly?
Twice. We didn't finish the second search until 4 this morning.
All right, Mr. Dunsley. I'll be in touch. Come up with anything, you let me know, Barnaby.
Oh, Sandy, this is the man from the insurance company, Barnaby Jones.
How do you do?
I told him you'd be happy to cooperate if he had any questions.
I've already told the lieutenant everything I know.
Well, it never hurts to take a second look at things. Sometimes you pick up bits and pieces that enable everybody to get home in time for supper.
The bonds were in the cart when I left the file room, and were gone by the time I was supposed to deliver them to Mr. Jordan's office. That's all I can tell you.
Is this the cart that you use?
Yes?
Do you usually bring it into the office when you deliver the bond?
No, usually I'll leave it in front of the door, but it's never out of my sight for more than a moment or two.
Well, in a moment or two, somebody passing by could possibly lift something out of it. How long has Miss Wright worked for you?
Oh, about 3 years. Sandy is one of my top people. You don't suspect her, do you?
Well, if it does turn out to be an inside job, by definition, it usually turns out to be someone you trust. I'd like to have a list of all your employees.
Of course.
And ask the receptionist if she can provide me with a list of all the clients who came by her desk yesterday morning.
This way.
Mrs. Dunsley?
Francis, remember? Sit down, sit down. You don't need to be standing. How are you?
Fine.
Good. Oh, Blue. Something tells me that you expect it to be a boy.
Uh-huh. Even picked out a name for him. Troy, after my father.
Your father?
So I don't know who my father really is. But little Troy doesn't have to know that.
Little Troy will know who his father is. Sister Mary told me about your boyfriend getting out of jail.
Yeah. Rudy called a while ago from that halfway house where he's staying. Said he was coming over.
I think it's terrific. I hope you'll be very happy.
You don't think I'm gonna marry him? I'm afraid of him. That's the only reason I agreed to see him. I mean, he's a killer.
Sister Mary told me that it was just a bar fight, an accident.
That's what everybody thought. So they put him away for 8 months and call it manslaughter. But I was there. Rudy meant to kill that man. And it wasn't just because he made a pass at me. Rudy likes hurting people. Here comes Dreamboat now. Look at him. He even walks like he's looking for trouble. Stick around, you'll see.
No, honey, I have an appointment. I promise I'll talk to you before I leave.
Hey, Treasure, take a card.
Why are you following me? I told you that you would have to wait.
You said tomorrow. This is tomorrow.
Cal, there is a private investigator, police all over the place. Now, you're just going to have to give me a couple of weeks, at least until things have quieted down.
You're talking like you're holding the cards, not me. Remember, Mrs. Dunsley, there's also a little murder rap waiting for you back in Miami.
Murder. You really are a creep, aren't you?
Ace of spades. Guilty as charged.
That John was a beast, a sadist. And you knew it when you set him up with me.
Didn't give you any call to push him down a flight of stairs.
He would have strangled me. Look, I was just trying to protect myself.
Case is still open as a homicide. Now, they know that John had a hooker in the room with him. They just don't know who the hooker is. Yet.
Look, My husband is out of the office for the rest of the day. I have no excuse to go back there. You're just gonna have to wait until tomorrow.
Sure. As long as you get those bonds to me before that big bird takes off for London.
That's right, an inter-office delivery card. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Collins. I appreciate that.
Yes, well, thank you. No, I'm sorry too, right. Bye-bye. Anything?
No. All the clients who were at Dunsley's yesterday were either coming in by brokers or they weren't anywhere near the executive hallway.
Oh, I'm afraid I haven't done much better with this list of employees.
Barnaby, look who I found.
Barnaby. Betty, my dear. Beautiful as ever.
Oh, yes, I know, Howie. And if only I had enough money to afford you.
Do you know where I found him? I found him hanging around Superior Court, making passes at rich divorcees.
Oh, Howie, when will you ever learn?
You think some other guy isn't helping my ex spend the alimony I pay her? I figure one hand washes the other.
Well, now, Howie, you help us, and maybe we'll chip in on your next monthly payment.
Yeah, JR's been filling me in about those missing bonds. They're on the griddle.
Howie figures that the Dunsley bonds are too hot right now and that none of the regular fencers want to get caught with that kind of heat in their inventory.
You figure they're still up for grabs?
And they'll stay that way, unless some hotshot knows a way to travel the bonds out of the country. You know, to where they don't look too close at serial numbers.
If we come up with such a buyer, you come up with a seller?
Well, there is this dude who seems to be always plugged in on everything. Ask him for an elephant and he'll come up with Dumbo. Only he, might be a little tough to find just now.
Well, here's a little finding money. And, this is for when you set him up for us.
Okay. But be careful on this one, Barnaby.
Why, do you know something we don't?
No. It's just that nothing about this caper hit me as professional. It smells more like a juggling act by an amateur. And amateurs scare me because you never know what they're liable to do.
There.
Listen, tell him to kill that beer and send over 2 scat tracks over there. Okay. What does it make the action kind of slow up down?
Now I'm just waiting for somebody.
Wait. Anybody keep a fox like you waiting should have his screw turned.
Well, you're not so bad yourself.
No. You know, I've been watching you ever since I left the halfway house. You've been following me.
Well, I've just been trying to figure out your sign.
Why? Is it showing?
Aggressive. Sees what he wants, goes after it. What is it? Scorpio or Taurus?
Rudy. It's just plain old Rudy to my pals. What do your pals call you? Huh?
That ought to cover it.
You know, just so we understand each other, if you're trying to say something to me, say it in words. Big numbers like this sort of confuse me.
All right. There's a man who's trying to hurt me. And I want to hire somebody to stop him.
Isn't that what the cops are for? Why'd you go to them?
I'll just scare him off. He'll come back. I want this man stopped permanently.
So you figure all you have to do is come into a place like this, go eeny, meeny, miny, moe, and pick yourself out someone to take care of your problem, right?
Well,
A minute ago, I asked you what your name was. You didn't tell me what it was.
let's just say that I'm the lady who's going to give you $2,000 after you've done the job.
Well, it looks like you just might have bought yourself some peace of mind. Here's to the money, lady.
Splendid collection, isn't it, Miss Roberts? Miss Roberts?
Oh, yes, they're magnificent.
Are you sure you won't join me in breakfast?
Oh, thank you, no, Mr. Ordway. Mr. Davidson and I have already eaten.
Those particular pieces have been completely remounted. I can guarantee the original owners would never be able to identify them.
I don't doubt your professional competence, Mr. Ordway, but this isn't the type of merchandise that we were looking for, is it, madam?
Oh, well, it would certainly sell beautifully if we had clients in the Middle East. All that excess oil money. It's a pity.
Let me understand something. When Howie Spiller called to say that he couldn't handle your action, to ask if I was interested, I was led to believe that you were both in a position to travel top-grade merchandise overseas.
Well, possibly Mr. Spiller should have been a little more specific. You see, our contacts are in Athens and Rome, and our people are looking to put their money in a paper.
You mean stocks? Bonds?
Yes, if they're untraceable.
Our clients have large sums of undeclared cash that they wish converted into something small and safe.
It sounds like you're after bearer bonds. The kind the papers mentioned were stolen just recently.
Yes, I read where they were missing. If they were stolen and you could get a hold of them, it might do perfectly.
Well, that might be possible, Mr. Davidson. How much can you use?
We work on a very small percentage. It'd have to be 50,000 or upwards, or it wouldn't be worth the risk.
Yes, and we are leaving this afternoon for San Francisco to see some people who might be able to help us up there. So if you're interested, Mr. Ordway, it will have to be fast.
I'll see what I can do.
Thank you. We'll call you in a few hours.
Yeah,
Ordway, do you still have the merchandise?
I still have them.
You're in luck. I think I can make a deal for all you're holding. And more.
100,000 more?
You've got a deal. But we don't have much time.
Yeah, well, this afternoon okay? About 1 o'clock. Is that okay?
No, sooner.
Where do I meet you?
The Circle Shopping Center in Northridge, the east end of the parking lot. And make it 11 o'clock, not a minute later.
Yeah, right. Yes, Mrs. Dunsley, please. What's the get-up for?
I didn't want to be recognized in case we were seen together.
Well, just hand over the bonds. You won't have to worry about that again.
I'm going to need another hour.
Are you trying to pull something?
I told you, I can't go to the office unless my husband's there. He's on his way now.
All right. I'll have to stall my guy. Just hurry it up.
for old time's sake, I'm gonna ask you just one more time. Let me off the hook.
You're wasting time.
$53,000? What happened to the other 100,000?
There's been a hang-up. It'll take another hour.
An hour? That's cutting it pretty short.
Come on, I'll buy you a drink.
No, I've got to make another stop. Come over to my house when you get the rest. I'll take them off your hands then.
Betty, hi, let me speak to Barnaby. That station wagon right there.
You asleep?
I don't know. He's been that way ever since Ordway left, about 20 minutes ago.
Let's have a look.
Is he dead?
What do you call Lieutenant Biddle?
Illinois driver's license. Name mean anything to you?
Calvin Timothy Green. Nope.
Local bank account. Mr. Green was doing all right for himself. Total's almost $12,000.
3 deposits in the last 10 days.
Also found 11 of these $100 bills in a money belt.
But you found no trace of the bonds?
No. You think it could have been some of this money you saw Ordway handing back to Green, not the bonds?
Well, to tell you the truth, Lieutenant, I don't get to see $100 bills that often that I wouldn't know the difference.
Maybe Ordway can shed some light on that when you pick him up.
Already got out an APB on him, shouldn't take long. I'll let you know as soon as we got it.
Darling, it's our going away party.
I know. But I promised that I would get the money to St. Angela's before we left for London. Look, would you cash this for me?
This is the check I gave you yesterday.
Well, Sister Mary felt that when the girls were ready to leave, a cash gift would be more useful. You know, it would sort of help them on their way.
I only have $1,300 on hand.
That'll have to do. I'm sorry, darling, but I promise this won't take long. Okay?
Good evening.
Good evening.
I hope I'm not too late for the party.
Not at all. Francis, I don't think I know this man.
Oh, this is the man from St. Angela's. He's on the committee for charities, isn't that right?
I'm Ed Dunsley. I'm one of your biggest customers.
Rudy Markham. I'm very big on charities and that sort of stuff.
Rudy. Yes, you must be here for the donation. Sister Mary must have wanted to save me the trip. Here.
It's cool. Well, you're a little short, but who's counting?
Well, if that's all...
Oh, no, I can't leave without giving Mrs. Dunsley a receipt. It's tax deductible. You get a pencil?
There's one in the study. Francis.
This way. How the hell did you find me?
You left tracks, as they say. Hey, your husband, he really does okay, doesn't he?
Okay. How much more do you want?
Is that what you think, that I came here to shake you down?
Let's get it over with.
Look, the bonds I took from the mark should bring in plenty, together with the money you just gave me. That's gonna do me just fine.
Well, then what is it you want?
I like you.
You what?
I like you. I think you're about the prettiest woman I've ever known.
You came here after what happened with my husband and all my friends out there to tell me that you like me.
Yeah. You've been giving me the eye, haven't you?
I gave you the eye?
Yeah.
I think you had better leave right now.
And if I don't want you to call the cops? Listen, I like you. You like me. What's so bad about that?
Look, this is insane. If you like me, then go away and leave me alone.
Francis, you got this all wrong. It's not like I'm asking you to give all this up to marry me or nothing like that. But that doesn't mean we can't see each other all the time.
Francis? Oh, you're still here.
We've been talking about this charity business. It's so...
I didn't mean to interrupt, but we're about to serve dinner, so...
Oh, well, thank you. That's an invitation. I appreciate it. That's nice.
Coming, Francis.
Yes, I'll be out in a minute.
Forgot one thing, Ordway. You switched the diamond in this one, only the ring itself happens to match one from the Morrison job in Palm Springs.
All right. Maybe you can nail me for receiving stolen goods, but not for murder. I hardly even knew this Cal Green.
You were seen in the station wagon with him haggling over the bond.
If I stuck a knife into him for the bonds, where are they? Where? Your men found everything else I was holding.
Take Mr. Ordway back to the holding cell till the district attorney's people get here.
Got anything from Ordway?
Yeah, the creeps. JR, when Ordway got out of that station wagon, did he stop on the driver's side to say anything to Cal Green?
No, he just walked toward his car and drove off.
Coroner's preliminary report. You didn't see anybody else approach that wagon?
I guess somebody could have when I went to the phone booth to call Barnaby, but that wasn't for more than half a minute.
It must have been when it happened, John. Green was killed by a knife thrust from the left side.
At a downward angle. The killer must have come at him through the driver's side window.
Well, that definitely rules out Ordway, but it still leaves us with how Green got those bonds and where they are now.
Did you get a home address on Green from his bank account?
General delivery. It's like his Illinois driver's license. Maybe Miami can do better for us.
You got something from Miami?
Yeah, it seems the Chicago police are holding a Miami warrant on Mr. Green for, as it's politely put, soliciting women for immoral purposes.
He was a pimp?
I'll let you in on all the seamy details when I get the TWX on his complete record.
We'll be waiting on your phone call, John.
Get in.
Hey, you know, my luck's changing. You're right on time. You look good in blue.
Here. Take it. It was my mother-in-law's. And you should be able to get at least $5,000 for it. And that's the end of it. Do you understand?
Hey, I told you I got enough to last us for a while. Then it'll probably come in handy after we get back from Mexico, so.
We? What are you talking about?
You've been there? It's fantastic. Especially a place called Guadalajara. Hey, when that sun goes down and those stars come out twinkling like a million flashlights at night. I tell you, it's beautiful.
You're really serious, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm serious. Your husband's gonna be out of the country, ain't he? So what he don't know's not gonna hurt him, right? Could tell right away we're from the same part of town. I'm really crazy about you, Francine.
My husband and I are leaving for London this afternoon. And if you do anything to mess it up, I swear I'll kill you.
Couldn't kill anything, Francie. If you could kill someone, what would you been needing me for? You wouldn't have needed me to begin with. And on the other hand, about your husband, if he starts getting in the way, you better start thinking of a good funeral for him.
What are you talking about?
Well, maybe it's not a bad idea. You know, if he was put out of the way, you'd inherit all of his loot, and you and I could do our thing out in the open.
Look, okay. No, okay. Yeah, look. I'll do anything that you say. Just don't let anything happen to Ed.
Well, that's something to keep in mind. What time do you leave the house for the airport?
1 o'clock.
I'll be over right after 1 o'clock, okay? Hey, put a six-pack on ice, will you?
Is that TWX from Miami?
Mm-hmm. Full background on alias Calvin Green. Real name, Calvin Garrison. And as you can see, procuring was not the only thing that Miami wished to discuss with him.
Homicide.
Seems that one of the girls from his prostitution stable is suspected of killing a client. Green was wanted as a material witness for questioning.
5 years ago.
That's about the time he took off for parts unknown while he was out on bail.
What happened to the girl?
Never found. Oh, she had some prior arrests for prostitution. That's further on down.
Patricia Collier. Interesting. I wonder if her name is now Sandy Wright.
The file clerk at Dunsley's brokerage company?
Where's Jedediah?
Oh, my gosh, I forgot. He's still down at Lieutenant Biddle's waiting for you to show up where you were supposed to show up.
Tell him to ask Lieutenant Biddle to rush me a wire photo of Patricia Collier.
All right, and you? Am I going to have to tie a little bell around your neck to know where you are?
I'll be having a talk with Sandy Wright.
Francis, where are you?
Yes, Sister Mary. I did promise her that. Well, if you think it's that serious, of course I'll come over. Yes.
What is it?
Do you know the girl that I told you about at St. Mary's? Mary Jo? Well, she's in labor. And when they told her that I couldn't be with her like I promised, well, she went into hysterics. They were afraid for the baby.
You know, I can't postpone the flight there. They're holding off an emergency meeting until I get there.
Well, there's no reason for you to. I'll take the flight tomorrow.
Phone doesn't work. I had it disconnected this morning. Tall lie like that at a time like this, you must have had a pretty good reason for wanting to stay.
Yes, I do.
What kind of trouble are you in, Fran? Can't you tell me?
No, not now. Look, it's just something...
All right. I'll just cancel my flight.
There's no reason for you to. I only need one more day.
Just my bags. I love you, Fran.
Go ahead.
All right, I'll have a reservation on a flight tomorrow. Are you okay?
I'll be there.
No, I've never seen this man. I've never even heard of him before all this. Should I have?
Well, I thought it might be possible. He was operating out of Miami about the time you were there.
Miami? Well, I stopped off there once for a couple of days, but...
You were registered with an employment office there for 10 months. If that's a mistake, I could keep checking.
No, that won't be necessary. I worked for data counting when I first got to Miami. After I quit, I hung around the beach waiting for another job until I decided to head west.
Any particular reason why you didn't mention that in your application here?
You see, I had to quit data counting because the boss there made certain demands. Know what I mean?
And you were afraid Mr. Dunsley wouldn't understand.
Well, you can imagine the kind of recommendation that Lech would have given me if Mr. Dunsley had asked for one. Is that all?
Yes, thank you, Sandy.
Barnaby, this is the Miami Wire photo of Patricia Collier. Now look at this. It's a picture of Mr. Dunsley and his wife.
Sandy.
Really, Mr. Jones, I have to finish these deliveries or I'll never get lunch.
Just one more question. When you discovered that the bonds were missing, did you notice whether Mrs. Dunsley was in the vicinity?
Mrs. Dunsley?
Yeah, did you see her? Was she in the building?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I did.
Why didn't you mention this to me or to the police?
Well, you wanted to know about employees or clients. Mrs. Dunsley. Mrs. Dunsley's Mr. Dunsley's wife.
hell's going on?
It's a celebration. What does it look like? My husband's on his way to Europe, and I wind up with you. I think that's something to celebrate about, don't you?
Come on, Francie. I'm not so hard to take, so why don't you just plain old cool it, huh?
Here, you gonna celebrate or not?
All right. I tell you something, Francie. You won't have no regrets. You played straight with me, I'll play straight with you, Skull. You know something?
What?
Why go to Mexico? With a palace like this to live it up in, we don't have to go anywhere.
Rudy, what about Mary Jo?
What about Mary Jo?
Well, I mean, she should be having your baby any time now. Don't you want the baby?
Are you kidding? That's what I went to see Mary Jo about, to tell her it was okay with me if she got rid of the kid. And you know what she had the nerve to tell me? To get lost. Can you believe that?
You know, Rudy, you just keep saying the wrong things.
Hey, wait.
I really didn't want it to be like this.
You blow me away, you get tagged for murder one sure as payday.
No, I don't think so. I mean, look around. Look at the mess you made when you tried to attack me. And I think the police will believe me when I tell them how you broke in and I had to shoot you to protect myself.
Sounds like you got company.
Don't you move.
Okay, Francie, now you be a good girl now. Come on. Come on, let's move.
Mrs. Zundlin?
Yes?
My name is Barnaby Jones. I'm a private investigator. This is my associate, Jedediah. Your husband probably told you I've been working on the matter of...
My husband isn't here. And if you'll excuse me, I'm very busy.
This is very important.
It's about the bonds that were stolen from your husband's firm.
I don't know anything about my husband's business.
Frankly, it can probably be proven that you took the bonds.
That's ridiculous.
Inside, both of you. Come on. See, I told you you needed me, Francie.
Rudy, forget it. It is all over.
Better listen to the lady.
No. You think I'm crazy enough to give all this up? Not on your life, not on both of your lives.
There are no bullets in the gun. It's empty. Well, Rob, I couldn't kill anybody. I just did this hoping I could scare you away.
I'll take time.
Lady said, it's all over.
Uh-oh.
Mrs. Dunsley says you can get her husband's London phone number from his office.
Would you call him for me, please?
Yes, of course. What would you like me to say?
I don't know, really. I guess, just tell him that I'm sorry. And that I never really meant to hurt anybody. It just seemed like I never had a choice.
Well, maybe you did. Maybe if you'd gone to your husband when Green first started blackmailing.
No, I don't think Ed would have understood.
Are you sure?
We better go.
Well, let's go, Jedediah. I have one lousy phone call to make.
Hello. Betty? Pat, I'm sorry to call you so late, but I need your help.
What's wrong, honey?
It's Glenn.
Is he drinking again?
Yes. I've never seen him this bad before. I'm afraid he's going to kill me.
Pat, I want you to hang up. I'm going to call the police.
No, Betty, please. Please, just come over here. I'm sure that once you're here, you'll be fine.
But for how long, honey? Until I leave? Pat, you've got to do something.
Who are you talking to? Get off the phone!
Betty, please!
I said get off the phone!
Oh, please don't.
Pat? It's Betty. Pat? Pat? Are you in there? Glenn? You don't know what I was just thinking. I was in the bathroom and I didn't hear you come in. Honey, are you all right?
Yeah, I'm all right. Glenn passed out just after I talked to you. I tried to call you back, but you'd already left.
Come on, let's find your suitcase and I'll help you put some things together.
What for?
You don't think I'm going to let you stay here alone with him, do you? You're going to stay with me.
That's sweet of you, Betty, but everything's all right now.
All right. A few minutes ago, you thought he was going to kill you.
That's because he was drunk. By tomorrow morning, he'll have forgotten all about it.
Honey, he has no right to abuse you. Pat, will you look at your face?
I have looked at it, Betty, and I'm sorry you had to see me this way.
You have to do something.
What, Betty? Just walk out on him like he didn't exist. Every day is another disappointment for him. And he just doesn't know what to do about it. I know you're only trying to help me, but I just can't walk out on him. I can't let him wake up and not find me here.
I guess I can't force you to come with. But you gotta promise me that you're gonna see me tomorrow. We'll have lunch. Maybe we can figure something out.
I'd like that. Thank you for caring.
Maybe it's none of my business, but from what Betty told me, maybe ought to do something about your situation.
Mr. Jones, it really isn't that serious. Betty is exaggerating.
Those dark glasses you're wearing, hiding Betty's exaggeration?
Well, he just hit me, that's all. He lost his temper.
Pat, last night when you called me, you were terrified. If he hadn't passed out, who knows what he might have done?
That won't happen again, Betty.
How can you say that? He's not going to stop drinking. And every time he gets drunk, he beats you.
Is that true, Pat?
Yes. That's true, and I don't know what to do about it.
Betty tells me that you won't call the police.
Do you know what a humiliation that would be for him? He's a sensitive man, not some common criminal.
What about a marriage counselor?
Glenn believes family problems should be kept inside the home.
Maybe you ought to worry about yourself a little more instead of Glenn. No matter how much you love him, a man who beats his wife is obviously disturbed.
I know.
Maybe you ought to get professional help before it's too late.
I wouldn't even know who to go to.
Well, I have a friend, Dr. Dover. He's a psychologist. He specializes in marriage problems. Betty could give you his number if you call the office.
All right, I'll talk to Glenn about going. No, I'm going to make him go if I have to drag him there myself.
That's a start. I guess I better start to get the check. Which is probably the reason I was invited along in the first place.
Hi, Pat.
Oh, David. Betty, you remember my boss, David Conrad?
Sure.
Certainly do.
Hi.
Betty's father-in-law, Barnaby Jones?
Oh,
How do you do, sir?
good to meet you.
You can put away the whip. I was just going back to the office.
Oh, no, take your time.
How's that for training a boss?
You want to tell me a secret?
Oh, we really were just finished. Thank you very much, Mr. Jones.
Good luck.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
It's very nice meeting you, Mr. Jones.
Very happy to meet you, sir.
Bye. Oh, I hope she can get Glenn to go.
Yeah. Betty, when I was much younger, I once tried to separate two brothers who were fighting. You know what happened? They both turned against me.
Is that your way of telling me not to get involved?
No. Just be careful.
By the way, Glenn called right after you left the office.
Did he say what he wanted?
No, he just asked if I knew where you were having lunch. I told him I didn't, but I don't think he believed me.
Why do you say that?
Oh, it's just something in his voice. I think he suspected that you and I were having lunch together.
Poor Glenn. He always makes everything so complicated. Well, I've decided we're going to see a marriage counselor.
Oh, really? Pat, if you want any time off, you know you've got it.
Thanks, David.
You know, I still say that some men have got all the luck. If you were my wife, Pat, I'd... what's the use of talking about it? You know what I mean. What's that for?
For making things so much easier.
Sure.
Come on.
Mr. Halston, according to a conversation I had with your wife earlier, she describes your marriage as a little more than bumpy.
Really? What did you say, Pat?
Just that we argued. Sometimes you got drunk and hit me.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It is true. It's all true. I throw myself on the mercy of the court.
This isn't a court, Mr. Halston. You know that.
I should at least have the opportunity to defend myself. Pat, how many years have we been married?
Almost 10.
And in those years, have you been happy?
You know I have.
And how many times have I hit you?
I don't know. Not many.
Well, then what are we talking about? Doctor, my old man was a violinist. I don't mean professionally. He wanted to be. Maybe he wasn't good enough. I don't know. So instead, he sold hardware, hammers, nails, things like that. And sometimes when it would get to be too much for him, he would go out and have a few drinks, and he would come home drunk, and he would hit my mother. But not out of hate, out of love. And she understood this. She knew it was the only way that he could ease that pain. And so she loved him. In spite of what he did to her, she loved him until the day he died. Can you understand that, Doctor?
You are an engineer, aren't you, Mr. Halston?
I sell hardware. I sell real estate now. It's the same thing, only bigger.
And why did you give up engineering?
The firm I was with was hit by the recession. I was one of many they laid off.
I'd like to see you both twice a week in the beginning.
Twice a week? Where am I going to get the time?
Glenn, you promised me.
That's right. I swore I would try. We'll be getting back to you, Doctor.
Mrs. Halston, for your own sake, see that he gets help. If he doesn't like me, go to someone else, but go to someone.
I'm not sure I understand.
Your husband's a very disturbed man, Mrs. Halston. Take my word for it. He's a bomb waiting to explode.
And here it is. The only bridge ever to span a relish tray. Stress factor, 1 green olive.
That's fantastic. Someday you'll be building the real thing instead of sticks and chewing gum.
Well, after all, a fellow who won, let's see, 2 student engineering awards in his junior year.
You remember that, Betty?
Remember it? I covered this story for the college paper.
Well, that was a long time ago. But I haven't given up yet. Just give me time.
And, yes, speaking of time, I've got to be up at the crack of dawn tomorrow.
Sure you won't stay and eat something with us, Betty?
Oh, no, thanks. Listen, it's your night to be together. But thank you for the wine. Good night.
Good night.
I think we'd better order something before it's too late.
Hey, beautiful. Don't worry. I told you from now on, 1 is my limit. Well, look who's here. David! David, come join us.
Oh, Glenn? Hi, Pat.
Sit down, sit down. What are you drinking?
This is it. I gotta get back to work.
What, at this hour?
Well, I've just been catching up on a few things, and I just thought I'd take a little break.
Well, that is what I call dedication. But I guess that's what it takes to stay on top.
In my company, that's what it takes to keep your job.
I guess that's why women find you so attractive. Now, don't be modest, David. They love winners. You are a winner. Now, take Pat here.
Glenn.
I don't think a day goes by that she doesn't tell me how successful you are.
Glenn, that's not true.
But does she ever tell you about me, David? I mean, why I'm selling houses instead of building bridges? Now that is interesting.
Glenn, maybe some other time.
No, it won't take long. You see, I could have gone on to graduate school, but then something unexpected came up. Right, Pat?
Glenn.
Pat, I'll see you tomorrow in the office. Good night, Glenn.
Why do you always have to spoil everything?
Spoil? Just because I wanted to tell him why I couldn't finish my education? Oh, I thought since you two were so close.
We're not close. I'm his friend. I work for him.
Work. Is that what you call it? Hey, you know what? I need another drink.
If you have another drink, I'm leaving.
Waiter, double martini on the rocks.
Glenn, please, let's go.
You're not going anywhere.
And people are looking.
Let them look. I want to hear about you and David. Pat? Pat? Pat?
What are you doing here?
It won't take me long to pack some things.
Listen, why don't we go with you?
Okay. Glenn? He must still be sleeping. Glenn? What's wrong? My wedding dress? Could he hate me so much?
Doesn't look like he's here.
I'll help you pack. Hello? What? Oh, my God. Yes, I'll be right there.
What's wrong?
David. He's been murdered.
That's all you can tell me, Lieutenant?
That's all there is to tell. You handling this for the insurance company you work for?
Oh, you might say I'm working for Betty on this one. It's personal.
Barnaby, there's nothing personal about murder. You got something. I don't want you holding out on me.
Well, everything that I got would come under the heading of suspicion. If you get some proof, you'll be the first to know.
Betty? JR? See you later.
Well, Barnaby, what'd you find out?
They think he was murdered by a mugger who waited for him outside of his office last night.
A mugger?
His wallet was gone, his watch, his college ring. I know what you're thinking, Pat, but there's not the slightest bit of evidence that connects Glenn to this.
I only hope that you're right.
Where is Glenn?
He should be at work.
Where's work?
Coronet Real Estate Company.
Jedediah and I'll have a talk with him.
I better go upstairs. The office will be in a madhouse. I'll call you later. Glenn!
I've got to talk to you, Pat. I want to apologize about last night. What I did to your wedding dress.
Wedding dress? Don't you know what happened to David last night?
Pat, you don't think I had anything to do with that? Oh, come on. Pat, how long have you known me?
Not very long. Not the way you've become.
Honestly think I could kill someone?
But I don't know what to believe anymore. All I know is that I've just got to get away from you for a while. I've got to have time to think.
Where will you go?
I'm staying at Betty's.
Honey, if that's what you want, that's fine with me. Just so you know that I love you.
Glenn, please, not now.
Maybe you'd like to see something else, huh? Morning.
Morning.
Well, I can see this is just the house you're looking for.
This is the house, all right, but we're looking for the salesman, Glenn Halston. They told us at the real estate office that we'd find him here.
Well, they told you wrong. He was supposed to be here almost 2 hours ago. I'm Sid Markham. Glenn works for me. What did you want to see him about?
I'm afraid this is personal, Mr. Markham.
Oh, yeah. Sure. Why not? It's only on my time. Here comes His Majesty now. Where have you been?
Sid, I'm sorry.
Sorry. Sorry he doesn't sell houses. You had 3 prospective buyers lined up for this morning. You missed all of them.
I'll call them all back, Sid. I'll set up new appointments.
Yeah, you do that. And before you take off tonight, I want to see you in my office.
I'll be there. Mr. Jones, right? Betty's father-in-law? I met you at a 4th of July picnic a couple of years ago.
What a terrific memory. This is my associate, Jedediah Jones.
What can I do for you?
Did you know that David Conrad was murdered last night?
I heard something about that on the radio. I figured I'd be a suspect sooner or later, but I didn't kill him.
Well, according to police, the murder took place at about 10 o'clock. Where were you at that time?
Trying to forget where I was at that time.
Unless you have a pretty good alibi, I'm going to have to tell the police how you felt about Conrad.
Have you ever heard of a place called Mully's Bar?
How long were you there?
About an hour. And then I went to the Red Sail, and then to a place called the Sombrero. We used to refer to that as bar hopping.
How did you bruise your hand?
I don't know. I must have banged against something.
Sure it wasn't Conrad?
I told you I didn't kill him.
And you won't mind if we check out those bars you were in last night?
No. Why should I?
No reason. No reason at all.
Do you remember when you took this, Betty?
No. Palm Springs.
We were happy then. Well, at this hour, that could only be Barnaby. Or Robert Redford. Yes, who is it?
Betty, it's Glenn. I'd like to talk to Pat.
Well, I'm sorry, Glenn. Pat's resting.
I won't stay long.
Glenn, it's no use.
It's important.
Betty. It's all right. What is it, Glenn?
I just had to talk to you. See, I haven't had a drink. I'm not drunk.
I know, but...
It just got so lonely at home without you. I tried not thinking about it, but how do you not think about somebody you love?
I don't want to talk about it anymore.
Just let me in just for a second,
no,
honey.
please,
Now,
don't make
don't
it
close
harder
the
for
door
me.
on me.
If you don't leave, Glenn, I'm going to call the police.
I have to talk to you, Pat.
Glenn!
Pat, you've got to listen to me. I'm no stranger. I'm your husband. You're my wife.
I'm afraid of you.
There's no reason to be anymore. Honey, I know what's going to save our marriage. It's not staying apart. It's getting together again.
It's too late.
Pat, let's have a baby.
A baby?
We always talked about it. I was just afraid of the responsibility. But honey, I'm not afraid anymore.
Do you know what having a baby means? Do you have any idea?
It means we'd be a real family. We'd have someone to care about, someone to love. Something that was a part of the two of us.
It's not that easy.
I'm not saying it's that easy. I'm saying we could handle it. Honey, we love each other. That's half the battle.
Glenn.
Honey, we got all these years invested. They're happy years. You said so yourself. We've got to give it just one more chance.
All right. Oh, Pat. I've got to, Betty. Don't you see that I have to?
That's it. Once she agreed to go home with him, he was fine.
Regular Jekyll and Hyde.
Oh, Glenn Halston, anybody in?
Speak of the devil.
Come in.
Hi. I'm sorry to bust in this way. I just wanted to apologize to you for last night. I've already talked to the manager of your place, and he says he will fix the door and send me the bill.
Thank you.
I also wanted to apologize to you, Mr. Jones, for the
trouble I've caused you. But everything is going to be different now. I've taken the pledge. I'm not going to drink anymore. Also, Pat and I are going to start seeing that marriage counselor twice a week.
Well, that's very nice. I'm glad to hear that. However, there is one problem, Glenn.
What's that?
Those bars that you said you were in the other night, we checked them out and only found one bartender at the Sombrero who remembers seeing you. He said you came in around 12 o'clock. Conrad was murdered a couple hours earlier.
Well, you know what they say. After the third drink, all bars look alike.
I don't think you fully realize the seriousness of your situation. I can't continue to withhold information from the police. Sooner or later, they're going to find out how you felt about Conrad. Now, where were you between 10 and 12?
I honestly don't remember, Mr. Jones. Man, when I tie one on, I really do a job. But that's all in the past. All I want to do now is to make Pat happy. I'm even planning on taking her to Hawaii for our anniversary.
She'd like that.
See, my company is giving free tickets to whoever makes the most sales over the next 2 months. And you are looking at the future winner. Well, I better get started. See y'all.
You know, Barnaby, I really want to believe him.
You sounded very convincing.
Come on, he's a salesman, remember?
You got a point, Jedediah. Now, while I continue checking out the bars, I want you and Betty to check out the building which Conrad had his office. See if you can find anyone who might have seen Glenn there about the time of the murder.
I was just about to suggest the same thing myself.
I know. Sid wants to see me. Oh, is it true he had open heart surgery and they found he didn't have one? Sid, contact your travel agent. Have to fill the names in on these Hawaii tickets to Mr. and Mrs. Glenn Halston. They are first class, aren't they?
I told you I wanted to see you before you took off last night.
Yeah, I know. I had some business I had to attend to. It's personal. You can understand that, can't you, Sid?
Sure. Why not? I mean, I'm human like everybody else, right? I got a wife, 3 kids. I even got a dog. You know what else I got, Glenn? High blood pressure, ulcers, and my doctor tells me I'm working on a coronary. You know what he prescribes? He says I should get rid of all my aggravations. And you, Glenn, are one of my biggest.
I know I let you down lately, Sid. It's just, well, I've been under these pressures. We're not machines, Sid. We all break down. All of us. But it's going to be different from now on. I'm going to sell more houses than anybody out there.
Not for me, you're not. You're through.
Hey, come on, Sid. You don't mean through.
What did you think? I was going to make you sales manager? Glenn, you know what your trouble is? You're a boozer. You drink too much, and everybody knows it. You're not only through here, you're washed up all over town.
I'm not going to drink anymore, Sid. I give you my word.
It's too late for that.
Hey, come on, Sid. You gotta give me just one more chance. Please. Just give me one more chance. I promised my wife.
I'm sorry, Glenn. I got a business to run here. Look, I got a lot of work to do, and why don't you clean out your desk?
Yeah. I don't want to leave anything behind.
Hi, any luck?
Only that my feet haven't given up. I stopped in to see Pat.
How is she?
Well, she's fine. She's looking forward to going to that marriage counselor tonight.
That's good.
I've never seen him around here before. Think he had something to do with the burglary?
What burglary?
What burglary? I thought that was why you're here. Someone broke into my shop night before last and stole a dozen of my best cameras.
The night of the murder?
That's right. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a connection somewhere.
And you reported this to the police?
Yeah, about an hour ago.
Why'd you wait so long?
Because I just found out about it. See, when I found the cameras missing, I thought my partner had taken them on the road with him to sell. When he got back this morning, I found out he hadn't touched them. That's when I realized what happened. Just made a copy of the serial numbers to give to the police.
Mr. Keller, do you mind if we borrow one of these?
If it'll help get my cameras back, be my guest.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Honey, I'm home. I've got a surprise for you tonight. After we come back from the counselor, I'm going to fix you your favorite dinner. Then we're going to put on some records, and I'll light those pretty candles that I bought. I guess it isn't any surprise anymore, is it? But it'll be like when we were first married. Glenn? Glenn, are you all right?
Oh. I got canned today.
What?
You heard me. I got fired.
Oh, no. Why?
Because of you?
Me?
That's right. First I blamed myself. Then I realized, if you hadn't caused me all those problems, Pat, threatening to leave me, I could have concentrated on my job and done better work.
You know, that's not true.
It did! You have been the source of all of my problems. I could have gone to graduate school. I could be a good engineer now if you hadn't tricked me into marrying you.
Tricked you?
That's right. By telling me you were pregnant.
But I was pregnant.
Oh, well, then what happened?
What happened? I had a miscarriage.
You think I believe that, Pat?
Believe it? What are you talking about?
I know that you made that all up so that I would make it all legal.
Oh, my God. No.
I've known it all along. The pregnancy, the miscarriage, it was all a lie. A trick.
You poor sick man.
Oh, no. I have had an albatross around my neck. Well, I'm gonna get rid of it. Now!
Stay away from me, and I mean it. You're never going to touch me again. Never.
Pat.
No! I'm leaving you for good. I'm getting a divorce.
I see. Well, you have all the serial numbers of the cameras. If one of them does come in, I'd appreciate a call. Thank you very much.
You're right, it's a 35 millimeter f2.8. Yeah, serial number is 31792G. Okay. Well, you can call us here anytime.
Mr. Harrington, Four-Star Loan Company. You took in 8 cameras in the last 2 days, not one of them from the Keller burglary.
Are there any more pawn shops we haven't called yet?
No, that was the last one. But if you ask me, we are wasting our time.
You don't think there's any connection between the burglary and Conrad's murder?
To tell you the truth, I don't know what I think, Barnaby. It's been a long day, and I am really tired. What I'd like to do is go home, take a nice hot bath, and get a good night's sleep. So if you fellas don't mind turning off the lights when you leave. You will let me know if anything happens.
Even if it means waking you from your long night's sleep?
Just you try not waking me.
I think she wants us to wake her. Barnaby Jones.
Mr. Jones, this is Lou Sampson at Esquire Loans.
Yes, Mr. Sampson.
Those cameras you were asking about. Some guy just walked in here with one of them.
He's still there?
Yeah.
We're on our way.
Pat? What's wrong? What happened?
Glenn was drunk when I came home. Betty, you were right. I've got to leave him for good. I just came by to pick up my things.
Well, you're welcome to stay here. You know that.
No, I know, but this will be the first place he'll look, and you know how he can be. Look, I've got to find a hotel somewhere. Maybe the Marina.
All right. Better call first, see if we can get a reservation.
That's a 13528.
Well, how much?
I could give you $35 on it.
What are you kidding? That camera's brand new. It's worth $300-400.
Yeah, well, maybe to a photographer, but not to a pawnbroker. Now, you want the money or don't you?
45. Is that gonna kill you?
$40, take it or leave it.
All right. 40.
Okay. Here. Now, you fill this out, okay?
Hey, come on, the money, huh?
It's in the back. I gotta get it. I was just closing. You just finished filling that out.
Hey, hurry up.
That's your camera?
Hold it.
Right there.
Looks like David Conrad's ring, Barnaby. It's got initials DC in here.
Maybe you better call the police.
Yeah, all right.
Phone's in there.
Thanks.
Really, I appreciate it, but you don't have to go with me.
I want to make sure you're checked into your room nice and safe. We got everything? Okay.
Where are you running to now, Pat?
She just needs a little time by herself, Glenn, that's all.
I told you weren't gonna leave. Never again.
I didn't mean to kill him, but he saw me, so I had to hit him. Get him out of here. I hope this straightens out that personal problem for you, Barnaby.
It's gonna make some people feel a lot better. Thanks, Lieutenant.
See you around.
Barnaby, there's still no answer at Betty's.
Did you try Pat's?
That's what worries me. There's no answer there either.
Let's get right over to Betty's.
come on.
I told you weren't gonna leave me, Pat. Never again.
Oh, Glenn, you're not going to do anything.
Get out of the way, Betty.
And she loves you. Why are you doing this?
She knows. She made me a failure.
Glenn, that's not true. The failure was your doing, and it's time you faced it.
No. I could have been building bridges now. I could have been anything.
Glenn, that's a lie, you know it.
Get out of the way, Betty. I'm warning you.
Please, I'll go with him. Anything. You had your chance in school, and you blew it. Stop blaming Pat for that.
I had to marry her. That's why I quit.
Oh, no, I was there, remember? You had to quit because you couldn't make the grades.
Oh, I won 2 awards. My junior year.
And after that, what happened? All right, maybe the competition got too stiff, or maybe you couldn't hack it, but you quit because you couldn't get the grades. You can't blame Pat for that.
What?
Oh, face the truth, Glenn. For the first time in your life, face it. Stop blaming Pat for what you are.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Sorry I'm late.
Well, that's all right. We just got here ourselves.
Here, let me help you. Thanks, J.R.
Oh, did you see Glenn?
Yes. They have this small lake out there. We took a walk by it.
How is he?
Relaxed, thoughtful.
How long did the doctor say he'd have to be there?
6 months, a year, maybe. Who knows?
Pat, when he gets out, are you going back to him?
I don't know. I guess a lot of it depends on him. Time. I just don't know.
Well, why don't we order?
Well, listen, Barnaby, I really don't have too much of an appetite.
Too bad, Jedediah. It's my check.
Your check?
That's right.
I'll start with some soup, maybe have a salad later on. Hey, the lasagna here is really terrific. The ravioli. Maybe have a lasagna in the ravioli.
Glenn Halston had always believed that the hardest problems in life were the ones that could be solved if a person simply worked hard enough. He had once believed that about engineering, he had believed it about marriage, he had even believed it about himself. But there were some problems that refused to be measured, calculated, or repaired by determination alone. On a quiet evening, Pat Halston sat at the telephone, listening to the frightened voice of her friend Betty. Betty was speaking quickly, almost in a whisper, as though the walls of the house might hear her. It was Glenn again. He had been drinking, and this time Betty was afraid. Pat did not waste time asking questions. She knew enough about Glenn to understand what Betty meant. She told her friend to leave the house and come over immediately. Betty hesitated. She was frightened, but she was also worried about what would happen if she walked away. That hesitation was something Pat understood too well. When Pat finally arrived, Betty tried to reassure her that everything was fine. Glenn had fallen asleep. The danger seemed to have passed. But Pat could see that Betty was not fine. She could see it in her face. She could hear it in the careful way she chose her words. More importantly, she knew that a person did not become frightened without a reason. Pat urged Betty to leave. Betty refused. She loved Glenn. That was the part Pat found hardest to understand. Love, she thought, should make people feel safe. It should make a home warmer, not colder. It should give a person somewhere to rest when the rest of the world became difficult. Yet Betty remained convinced that Glenn could change. She believed that the drinking was the real problem. She believed that beneath the anger and disappointment was the man she had married. She believed that if someone could reach him, perhaps he would find his way back to himself. Pat wanted to believe that too, but she had already learned that love could not do every job. The next day, Pat sat with Betty at lunch. Betty wore dark glasses, hoping to hide what had happened. Pat did not need to ask why. She simply looked at her friend. Betty admitted that Glenn had lost his temper again. She also admitted something more painful. She did not know how to leave. Nearly 10 years of marriage had created habits, memories, responsibilities, and fears that could not simply be packed into a suitcase. Betty had spent years believing that tomorrow would be better. Every difficult night had been followed by an apology. Every apology had carried a promise, and every promise had eventually become another disappointment. Pat tried to convince her that she deserved better. Betty knew that. Knowing something and being ready to act upon it were two very different things. There was another person at the table that day, Barnaby Jones, who had known Pat for years. He listened quietly as Betty described her situation. He was not a man who liked to interfere in other people's marriages, but what he heard troubled him. He suggested professional help. Perhaps Glenn needed someone who understood what was happening beneath the anger. Perhaps the marriage needed someone who could help both of them see what they could no longer see clearly themselves. Barnaby mentioned a psychologist named Dr. Dover, a man who specialized in marriage problems. Betty agreed to speak with him. It was a small decision, but sometimes a small decision is the first step toward a much larger change. Dr. Dover listened carefully when Pat and Glenn finally came to see him. Glenn tried to make the situation sound smaller than it was. He described the arguments as ordinary disagreements. He spoke about stress, disappointment, money, work, and the pressures of life. But Dr. Dover was not interested in excuses. He was interested in patterns. Glenn had grown up watching his father drink when life became difficult. His father had been disappointed in his own dreams. Instead of becoming the musician he wanted to be, he had worked in a hardware business. When frustration overwhelmed him, he drank. And when he drank, he became angry. Glenn remembered his mother staying with his father. He remembered that she had loved him despite everything. Somewhere along the way, Glenn had confused endurance with love. He had learned to believe that pain could exist inside a loving marriage without destroying the marriage itself. Dr. Dover disagreed. He told Pat that Glenn needed serious help. Glenn reluctantly promised to try. For the moment, that was enough. The couple began to attend counseling. For a short while, there seemed to be hope. Glenn also spoke often about the life he might have had. Years earlier, he had studied engineering. He had been talented. He had won awards as a student. He had dreamed of designing bridges and doing work that would leave something meaningful behind. But his education had ended. The engineering firm where he had worked had been affected by economic difficulties, and Glenn had been laid off. He eventually became a real estate salesman. He told himself that selling houses was only temporary. He told himself that he would succeed. He told himself that one day he would return to the person he had once imagined becoming. Pat wanted to believe him. She had known Glenn when he was ambitious and hopeful. She remembered the young man who believed the world was waiting for him. She also remembered how easily that confidence had turned into frustration. One evening, Pat and Glenn were having dinner when David Conrad appeared. David was Pat's employer and a successful businessman. Glenn immediately became uncomfortable. He asked questions that sounded harmless, but were not. He wanted to know what Pat thought of David. He wanted to know what David thought of him. He wanted to know whether Pat talked about his failures when she was at work. The conversation became increasingly tense. David eventually left. Pat was embarrassed. She asked Glenn why he always had to turn ordinary moments into arguments. Glenn insisted that he was only trying to understand what was happening around him. But beneath his words was something more complicated. He was afraid. He was afraid that Pat would discover how disappointed he was in himself. He was afraid that David represented everything he was no longer. Confidence, success, opportunity, a future. Glenn drank again. Pat warned him that if he continued, she would leave. For Glenn, those words became another reminder that his marriage was slipping away. For Pat, they were a desperate attempt to protect herself. The following morning, David Conrad was found dead. The news changed everything. The police believe the death might have been connected to a robbery. David's wallet and other personal belongings were missing. At first, there was no direct evidence connecting Glenn to the crime, but suspicion does not always need evidence to begin. Glenn had argued with David. He had been drinking. He had admitted that he was jealous, and he had been unable to explain clearly where he had been at the time David died. Barnaby began looking into the matter. He did not believe that Glenn was necessarily responsible, but he knew that Glenn had reasons to be questioned. When Barnaby confronted Glenn, Glenn insisted that he had nothing to do with David's death. He explained that he had been drinking and moving from one bar to another. Unfortunately, his story was difficult to verify. Only one bartender remembered seeing him. The time did not fit comfortably with the known timeline. Glenn's bruised hand raised another question. He claimed that he must have hit it against something. Barnaby wanted to believe him. But a detective could not work on belief alone. Meanwhile, Pat was falling apart emotionally. She was frightened by what had happened, but she was also frightened by what she had begun to think about her husband. Could Glenn really have done something terrible? She did not know. That uncertainty was almost worse than an answer. When Glenn came to speak with her, he tried to reassure her. He apologized for the things he had done. He promised that he would stop drinking. He promised that their marriage could be saved. He even suggested that they start a family. He spoke about the future with a confidence that almost sounded convincing. He told Pat that having a child would give them something to love together. Pat listened. Part of her wanted to believe him. Another part of her knew that a child could never be used as a solution to problems that two adults refused to solve. Still, she agreed to give the marriage another chance. Glenn promised that everything would be different. He promised to attend counseling. He promised to stop drinking. He promised to become the man Pat remembered. But promises were not enough. The investigation continued. Barnaby and his associate began checking the places Glenn claimed to have visited on the night David died. The story became less convincing with every conversation. Then, another event appeared to complicate matters. A local camera shop had been burglarized. Several expensive cameras were missing. At first, no one connected the burglary to David's death, but Barnaby wondered whether the two events might be related. He began checking pawn shops. One by one, they produced nothing. Then, late one evening, a call finally came. A pawn shop owner had a camera that appeared to match one of the stolen items. Barnaby and the others hurried there. The camera was only the beginning. When they examined the belongings of the man who had brought it into the shop, they discovered something far more important: a ring. The initials belonged to David Conrad. The investigation suddenly had a new direction. The camera burglary was not an isolated event. The evidence suggested that the same person who had been connected to the stolen property might also have been connected to David's death. Barnaby knew that he had to move quickly. At the same time, Pat had reached her limit. She had returned home and found Glenn drinking again. All the promises were gone. The counseling, the pledge, the talk about a new life. Everything seemed to have disappeared in a single evening. Pat told Betty that she was leaving Glenn for good. She wanted somewhere quiet, somewhere safe, somewhere she could think. Betty agreed to help her, but Glenn had already begun searching for her. When he arrived, the situation became tense. Betty tried to protect her friend. Glenn insisted that Pat belonged with him. He spoke about everything he had lost: his career, his education, his confidence, his future. And then he made the mistake he had been making for years. He blamed Pat. He told himself that if he had not married her, he would have finished his education. He told himself that she had ruined his career. He even claimed that she had once deceived him into marrying her by telling him she was pregnant. Pat could hardly believe what she was hearing. She had been pregnant. She had suffered a miscarriage. But Glenn had transformed an old tragedy into another explanation for his failure. He needed someone to blame because accepting responsibility for his own choices was hard. Barnaby finally confronted him with the truth. Glenn had been given opportunities. He had been talented. He had been intelligent. But he had made choices. His failures were not Pat's responsibility. His drinking was not Pat's responsibility. His anger was not Pat's responsibility. And the direction of his life could not be blamed on another person simply because accepting responsibility was painful. For the first time, Glenn had nowhere left to hide. The investigation had uncovered enough evidence to connect him with David's death and the stolen property. His future was no longer in his own hand, but Pat's future was. That distinction mattered. In the weeks that followed, Glenn was placed under professional care. Doctors believed that he would need considerable time before he could return to ordinary life. Pat visited him once. She did not know what the future would bring. She did not know whether she would ever return to the marriage. She did not know whether Glenn would truly change. And for the first time, she understood that she did not have to decide immediately. She could wait. She could heal. She could rebuild her life. The people around her encouraged her to take things one day at a time. There were no grand speeches, no miraculous solutions, only ordinary choices. A meal with friends, a quiet conversation, a walk outside, a little laughter after a difficult day. Life slowly became ordinary again, and perhaps that was the most important lesson of all. A person cannot love another person into changing. A marriage cannot survive on promises alone. A painful past does not give anyone permission to hurt another person. And failure does not become someone else's fault simply because accepting responsibility is uncomfortable. Glenn had spent years trying to escape the truth about himself. He blamed his marriage. He blamed his career. He blamed his lost opportunities. He blamed everyone except the one person whose choices he could actually control, himself. Pat, meanwhile, had spent years believing that loyalty meant staying no matter what. She eventually learned that loyalty also meant being honest about what was healthy and what was not. She had not failed because she walked away. She had finally succeeded at protecting her own future. When she sat down with her friends again, the conversation became surprisingly ordinary. Someone complained about the restaurant. Someone recommended the soup. Someone insisted that the lasagna was excellent. For a moment, everyone laughed. The laughter was simple, almost silly, but after everything that had happened, it felt precious. Life had not suddenly become perfect. It had simply become possible again. Pat looked around the table and realized that happiness did not always arrive with dramatic music or grand promises. Sometimes it appeared quietly. Sometimes it looked like friendship. Sometimes it sounded like laughter. Sometimes it was simply the freedom to sit down for a meal without being afraid of what might happen next. And that was enough. For now, enough was exactly what Pat needed. She did not know what tomorrow would bring, but for the first time in a long time, tomorrow belonged to her. The days that followed were quieter than the days before them. For Pat, quiet no longer felt like something she needed to feel. She began to understand that healing did not happen in one dramatic moment. It happened in ordinary pieces. A morning when she woke without anxiety, an afternoon when she realized she had gone several hours without thinking about Glenn, an evening when she laughed at something Betty said and did not immediately feel guilty for being happy. There were still difficult moments. There were still memories. There were still questions without answers, but the questions no longer controlled her. At work, Pat became more confident. She began taking on responsibilities she had once avoided. She stayed later when necessary, but she no longer felt that every decision had to be explained to someone else. Her coworkers noticed the difference. One afternoon, David's former office was being reorganized. Files were being moved, furniture was being cleared, and the company was slowly trying to create a future after a difficult period. Pat stood in the doorway for a moment. She remembered the man David had been. He had been confident, sometimes overly confident, but he had also been kind to her. He had believed in her abilities. He had seen qualities in her that she had not always recognized in herself. The memory was bittersweet. She did not want to erase the past. She simply wanted to stop living inside it. That distinction became increasingly important. A past could be remembered without being repeated. A mistake could be acknowledged without becoming a permanent identity. A painful chapter could end without destroying the entire story. Pat closed the office door and returned to her desk. There was work to do. There was life to live. and there were still good things waiting for her. Across town, Glenn was learning a different kind of patient. He had always wanted quick results. He wanted his career to advance quickly. He wanted his marriage to recover quickly. He wanted his problems to disappear quickly. Now he was learning that real change rarely moved at the speed of desire. The counselor asked him to keep a journal. At first, Glenn hated the idea. He thought writing down his feelings was pointless, but he eventually began. The first entries were defensive. He wrote about how unfair life had been. He wrote about losing his engineering position. He wrote about his frustration with real estate. He wrote about his marriage. He wrote about Pat. Then one evening he stopped. He looked at what he had written. He realized that nearly every sentence was about someone else. He closed the notebook. The next morning he started again. This time he wrote about himself. He wrote about his fear of failure. He wrote about how ashamed he had felt after leaving engineering. He wrote about how much he had wanted people to admire him. He wrote about the way disappointment had slowly become anger. He wrote about drinking. He wrote about the excuses he had used. He wrote about the promises he had made and broken. For the first time, the story was beginning to make sense, not because he had discovered a single reason for everything, but because he was finally willing to see the whole picture. He remembered being a young engineering student. He remembered the excitement of receiving awards. He remembered staying up late working on design. He remembered believing that bridges were more than structure. They connected people. That idea had once meant something to him. Somewhere along the way, he had forgotten. He had become obsessed with the bridge he thought he should have built. He had stopped noticing the bridge between the person he was and the person he could still become. The realization surprised him. He wrote it down. Then he underlined it. For the first time, Glenn was not planning how to impress someone. He was trying to understand himself. Meanwhile, Pat and Betty began discussing their plans for the future. Betty had become more independent too. She no longer accepted every excuse Glenn had once made for his behavior. She no longer believed that patience meant tolerating everything. The two women often talked about how easily people could become trapped in relationships because they were afraid of disappointing someone. They discovered that saying no was sometimes necessary. Not cruel, not selfish, necessary. One afternoon, Betty said, "I used to think being a good friend meant telling you what you wanted to hear." Pat smiled. "And now?" "Now I think being a good friend means telling you what you need to hear." Pat laughed. "That sounds dangerous." "It probably is." They laughed again. Their friendship had become stronger because neither of them needed to pretend anymore. There was no need to hide fear behind optimism. No need to pretend everything was fine. No need to turn every difficult conversation into a cheerful one. They could simply be honest. And honesty, they discovered, was surprisingly comforting. Several months passed. The legal process surrounding Glenn's case continued. There were meetings. There were questions. There were decisions. Pat did not involve herself more than necessary. She wanted to move forward. She also understood that moving forward did not mean forgetting what had happened. It meant learning from it. Barnaby continued to follow the developments. He had seen many cases during his career. He had learned that people rarely fit neatly into categories. Some people looked innocent and were not. Some people looked suspicious and were not. Some people were victims of circumstances. Others were victims of their own choices. And sometimes a person was both. Glenn was one of those complicated people. Barnaby did not excuse what Glenn had done, but he also understood that understanding a person's motives was not the same as approving them. That distinction mattered. A person could be understood without being excused. A person could be forgiven without being trusted again. A person could change without being entitled to another person's love. Those were difficult truths. They were also necessary ones. One evening, Barnaby visited Pat. They sat together for a while. He asked how she was doing. "Better." "Really?" Pat smiled. "Really? That's good." She looked toward the window. "I used to think happiness meant getting everything back to the way it was." Barnaby smiled. "And now?" "Now I think happiness means not needing everything to be the way it was." Barnaby nodded. "That sounds like progress." "It feels like progress." They talked about ordinary things: work, friends, travel, the possibility of a new apartment. Pat had started thinking about changing her surroundings, not because she wanted to erase the past, because she wanted to create new memories. She had spent years looking at the same rooms and remembering old arguments. Perhaps it was time to let the rooms belong to something new. A few weeks later, she found a small place she liked. It was not large, it was not luxurious, but it had big windows. There was a small garden outside. The kitchen was bright. The living room had enough space for a comfortable chair and a small bookshelf. Pat walked through it slowly. She imagined herself there, reading, cooking, listening to music, having Betty over for dinner, laughing, sleeping peacefully, living. She decided to take it. The move was tiring. Boxes appeared everywhere. Betty complained that Pat owned too many books. Pat replied that books were not clutter, they were investments. Betty disagreed. The argument lasted several minutes. Then both women started laughing. The new home slowly became hers. A photograph went on the wall. A plant went beside the window. Books filled the shelves. The rooms began to feel warm, not because the furniture was expensive, because the life inside them was hers. One Sunday morning, Pat stood in the kitchen making breakfast. She looked around. For a moment, she realized she was happy, not because everything was perfect, because nothing was demanding that she be afraid. She smiled to herself. Then she burned the toast. She stared at it. Betty, who had been visiting, walked into the kitchen. What happened? Pat looked at the toast. I was distracted. By what? Being happy. Betty laughed. Well, happiness apparently requires supervision. Pat laughed too. They threw the toast away and started again. It was an ordinary moment. But ordinary moments had become precious. At the treatment center, Glenn continued his work. He had stopped asking when he could leave. Instead, he began asking what he needed to do before he could leave. That was a significant change. The counselor noticed. You are thinking differently. I am trying. Why? Glenn considered the question. Because I am tired of being the person I have been. The counselor nodded. That is a good reason. Glenn looked down. I don't know if I can fix everything. You cannot. He looked surprised. You cannot fix everything, the counselor repeated, but you can stop making it work. Glenn nodded. That sounded simple. Perhaps simple was exactly what he needed. He began practicing. When he became angry, he stepped away. When he felt ashamed, he talked about it. When he wanted to blame someone, he stopped and asked what part of the problem belonged to him. Sometimes he failed, but failure no longer became an excuse to quit. He started again. That was new. Pat heard about his progress through occasional updates. She was glad, but she did not allow herself to build a new dream around it. She had learned that lesson. Glenn's recovery was Glenn's responsibility. Her life was hers. One afternoon, she received a letter. She recognized the handwriting immediately. She sat at the kitchen table for several minutes before opening it. Inside, Glenn wrote about the past. He did not ask her to return. He did not ask her to forgive him. He did not make promises. Instead, he wrote about what he had learned. He admitted that he had spent years blaming everyone around him. He admitted that he had confused love with control. He admitted that he had believed his failures were caused by other people. He admitted that he had used his disappointment as an excuse to avoid responsibility. Pat read the letter twice. Then she folded it carefully. She did not cry. She did not smile. She simply sat there and allowed the words to settle. After a while, she took out a sheet of paper. She began writing a response. She thanked him for being honest. She told him she was glad he was receiving help. She told him that she hoped he would continue. Then she wrote something that mattered most. She told him that his future had to belong to him, not to her, not to the marriage, not to his past, to him. She mailed the letter the next morning. Then she went to work. Life continued. That was the remarkable thing. The world did not stop because two people were trying to rebuild themselves. The sun rose. Cars moved through the streets. People bought groceries. Children went to school. Businesses opened. Friends met for lunch. Someone somewhere complained about the weather. Someone else laughed. Life continued. And perhaps that was the greatest comfort of all. A difficult chapter could be important without being the whole story. Pat was beginning to write another chapter. She did not know how it would end. She no longer needed to know. For the first time, she was comfortable with uncertainty. One evening, she sat by the window with a book. The sun was setting. The room filled with soft light. She thought about the person she had been years earlier. She wanted to tell that younger woman something. She wanted to tell her that love was not supposed to make her disappear. She wanted to tell her that kindness did not require surrender. She wanted to tell her that helping someone did not mean sacrificing herself. She wanted to tell her that leaving could sometimes be an act of courage. Most of all, she wanted to tell her that life could begin again, not because the past had vanished, because the future was still there. Pat closed the book. She looked outside. A neighbor was walking a dog. Someone across the street was watering flowers. A child was riding a bicycle. The world looked ordinary, beautifully ordinary. Pat smiled. Tomorrow would bring something new. Maybe another difficult decision. Maybe another surprise. Maybe another ordinary breakfast with burnt toast. Whatever it was, she would face it herself. And for the first time in many years, that thought did not frighten her. It made her feel free. The following morning began with rain. Pat woke before the alarm. For several seconds, she remained still beneath the blanket, listening to the soft tapping against the window. There had been a time when waking early filled her with dread. She would lie there wondering what kind of day was waiting for her. Now the feeling was different. The rain sounded peaceful. She got out of bed, opened the curtains, and watched the gray morning slowly brighten. She made coffee. She stood by the window. She thought about the letter she had sent Glenn. She wondered whether he had received it. Then she reminded herself that she did not need to know. That was another lesson she was learning. Not every question needed an immediate answer. Some things needed time. At work, the morning was unusually busy. Phones rang. People came and went. Papers accumulated on desks. A client arrived late and apologized so many times that Pat finally laughed. The man looked embarrassed. "I am sorry. You have already said that 3 times. I know. Then we are even." He smiled. The small exchange stayed with Pat for the rest of the morning. There had been a time when she would have found nothing remarkable about it. Now she noticed little things. A joke, a smile, a kind word, a moment when someone admitted a mistake without trying to blame another person. She was beginning to understand that happiness was often made of small things, not dramatic things. Small things. At lunchtime, Betty called. "I have an idea." Pat smiled. "That sounds dangerous." "It is actually very sensible." "That makes it more dangerous." Betty laughed. "I want us to take a trip." "Where?" "I told you. Somewhere warm." "Hawaii?" "Perhaps." Pat thought about it. Hawaii had once been part of a promise Glenn had made. He had talked about taking her there for their anniversary. The memory had once hurt. Now it simply felt like a memory. That was progress. She no longer needed to avoid a place simply because someone else had once mentioned it. "I think I would like that," Pat said. Betty was delighted. "Good. Then it is decided." "Nothing is decided." "It is decided." "You always do that." "What?" "Make decisions before I have finished thinking." "Someone has to." Pat laughed. Their conversation continued for several minutes. Then they began discussing practical details. Dates, tickets, hotels, restaurants, the ordinary business of planning a vacation. Pat found herself smiling throughout the conversation. She realized that she was planning something for herself, not for Glenn, not for the marriage, not because someone else expected it, just for herself. That afternoon, Pat received another update about Glenn. His treatment was progressing. He had begun participating more willingly. He had stopped demanding immediate answers. He had started accepting responsibility for his own action. The counselor believed that the progress was genuine. Pat listened carefully. "Does he still talk about me?" "Sometimes." "What does he say?" "Mostly that he hopes you are doing well." Pat looked down. "That is good." She did not ask for anything more. There was a strange comfort in knowing that Glenn was finally learning to respect distance. For years she had wished he would understand. Now he was beginning to. But understanding did not erase the past. It simply made the future less frightening. Glenn, meanwhile, had reached a difficult stage in his recovery. He was beginning to see himself more clearly. That meant he could no longer hide behind the explanations he had once used. He had to accept that some of his greatest disappointments had nothing to do with Pat. He had not finished engineering because life had become difficult. He had not failed because Pat had ruined his ambition. He had made choices. Some were reasonable. Some were not. Some had been made when he was frightened. Others had been made when he was angry, but they had still been his choice. The realization was painful. Yet pain was not always a sign that something was wrong. Sometimes pain was simply the feeling that came with honesty. One afternoon, the counselor asked him about his father. Glenn hesitated. He had not spoken about him for a long time. My father was disappointed in himself. And what did you learn from that? Glenn thought. I learned that a man should never show weakness. The counselor waited. Anything else? I learned that if life does not give you what you want, you have to find someone to blame. Did you believe that? I think I did. And do you believe it now? Glenn looked down. No. The answer was quiet, but it was honest. He continued. My father was unhappy. He did not know how to deal with it. I copied him. The counselor nodded. But you are not your father. Glenn looked up. I know. Then you can choose differently. That sentence remained with Glenn for a long time. Choose differently. It sounded almost too simple, yet his entire future depended upon it. That evening, he wrote in his journal. He wrote about Pat. He wrote that he still loved her. Then he wrote something else. Love did not give him the right to possess her. He read the sentence several times. It was difficult to write. It was even harder to accept. But he left it there. He did not cross it out. Several weeks later, Pat and Betty boarded a plane. The journey itself became an adventure. Betty brought far too many things. Pat teased her about it. You packed enough clothes for a month. I like choices. You brought 3 pairs of shoes. Exactly. Why? Because I have standards. Pat laughed. The laughter came easily now. They talked throughout the flight. They talked about work. They talked about friends. They talked about the future. At one point, Betty became quiet. Are you happy? Pat looked at her. I think I am. That is good. I am still learning how. Betty smiled. Aren't we all? When they arrived, the warm air felt wonderful. Pat stood outside for a moment and breathed deep. The ocean was nearby. The sky was bright. The world felt larger than the problems she had carried for so long. They checked into the hotel. They walked along the shore. They ate dinner. They watched the sunset. Nothing extraordinary happened. And that was exactly what made the trip special. There was no crisis. No argument. No phone call that changed everything. Just 2 friends enjoying a beautiful evening. Pat watched the sunlight disappear over the water. She thought about the woman she had been. She thought about the woman she was becoming. She realized that she no longer wanted her life to be defined by what had happened. She wanted it defined by what she chose to do next. That night, she slept peacefully. The next morning, she woke before Betty. She walked outside alone. The beach was quiet. She took off her shoes and stepped onto the sand. The water touched her feet. She smiled. For years, she had believed that moving forward meant forgetting. Now she knew better. Moving forward meant remembering without allowing the memories to control her. She could remember Glenn. She could remember David. She could remember the difficult night. She could remember the fear and still choose happiness. That was freedom. Back home, Glenn continued his work. He learned that recovery was not a straight line. Some days were difficult. Some memories returned unexpectedly. Sometimes he felt ashamed, but instead of running from those feelings, he began talking about them. He also started thinking about his old interest in engineering. The counselors encouraged him to reconnect with the parts of himself he had abandoned. He found an old notebook. Inside were sketches from his student days. Bridges, buildings, structures. Ideas. He turned the pages slowly. He had forgotten how much he loved creating things. Not for money, not for praise, simply because he enjoyed solving problems. For the first time, he wondered whether he could find that part of himself again. Perhaps he could not return to the exact life he had imagined. Perhaps that life was gone, but perhaps he could build another, a different one, a more honest one. He began studying again. Nothing ambitious, nothing dramatic, just reading, learning, thinking. He discovered that his mind still worked. The ability had never disappeared. His confidence had. There was a difference. Confidence could be rebuilt, slowly, patiently, one decision at a time. When Pat returned from her trip, she brought Betty a small gift. Betty opened it. "You remembered?" "Of course." Betty smiled. They sat together and looked through photographs. Pat had taken dozens. Some were beautiful. Some were terrible. One photograph showed Betty blinking at exactly the wrong moment. Pat laughed. "You are keeping that one." "Absolutely not. I am framing it. You are a terrible friend. That is what friends are for." They laughed. The photographs were placed in an album. Pat looked through them later that night. There were pictures of the ocean, the sunset, the hotel, the food, the two of them laughing. There were no pictures of fear, no pictures of arguments, no pictures of the past, only new memories. Pat closed the album. She placed it on the shelf. Then she turned off the light. The house was quiet. She smiled. Her life was not perfect, but it was hers. That was enough. Months later, Glenn was finally allowed to begin preparing for a return to ordinary life. The transition was carefully planned. He would have responsibilities. He would have support. He would have to continue working on himself. There would be no shortcuts. Before he left, the counselor spoke to him privately. "You understand that recovery does not end when you leave here." "I know." "You will still have difficult days." "I know." "You may feel tempted to return to old habits." "I know." "And what will you do?" Glenn thought about it. "I will ask for help." The counselor smiled. "Good." Glenn looked toward the window. For the first time, the future did not look like something he had to conquer. It looked like something he had to earn. Pat did not know exactly what would happen when Glenn returned to ordinary life. She had decided not to build expectation. She would not promise reconciliation. She would not promise friendship. She would not promise anything she could not honestly give. But she could wish him well. And sometimes wishing someone well was enough. One afternoon, she received a final letter. Glenn wrote that he was grateful. Not because she had returned to him. She had not. But because she had forced him to confront himself. He said that he had spent years searching for someone to blame. He had finally realized that the person he needed to change was himself. Pat read the letter quietly. Then she folded it. She placed it in a drawer. She did not need to answer immediately. Perhaps she never would. The letter did not require an answer. It was simply a statement from one person who had finally begun to understand his life. Pat went outside. The afternoon was warm. She watered the plants in her garden. One of the flowers had begun to bloom. She smiled. It reminded her that growth was often invisible at first. A seed could remain underground for weeks. Then, one morning, something appeared. Small, fragile, but alive. She thought about Glenn. Perhaps he was beginning his own growth. Perhaps he would succeed. Perhaps he would fail and have to begin again. That was his journey now. Hers was different. She had already begun hers. She returned inside. The telephone rang. It was Betty. "Are you busy?" "No." "Good. I have another idea." Pat laughed. "I am almost afraid to ask. I think we should take another trip." "Where this time?" "Somewhere with terrible food." "Why?" "So we can appreciate coming home." Pat laughed. "That may be the best idea you have ever had." They continued talking. Outside, the evening light slowly faded. Inside, Pat listened to her friend's voice and smiled. There had been a time when she believed her story was ended. She had been wrong. It was only changing. And sometimes a changed story is better than the one a person originally planned. The past could not be rewritten. But the future could still be written, one choice at a time, one honest conversation at a time, one quiet morning at a time, one ordinary evening at a time. And Pat was ready to write hers. Time moved forward as it always did, even when people were not ready for it. For Pat, the months after her return from Hawaii became a period of quiet rebuilding. She settled into her new home. She became comfortable with the silence. She learned the small routines that made a house feel like a home. She bought groceries on Saturday mornings. She watered the plants before leaving for work. She kept a stack of books beside the chair near the window. She sometimes invited Betty for dinner, and on those evenings the kitchen usually became more crowded than necessary. Betty had a talent for turning simple meals into elaborate events. Pat had a talent for reminding her that they were supposed to be simple meals. "You are using too many dishes," Pat said one evening. "I am creating an experience. You are creating washing. That is what husbands are for." Pat looked at her. Betty immediately raised both hands. "I take that back." They laughed. The humor between them was gentle, but it had become important. Neither woman wanted to spend the rest of her life discussing the worst things that had happened. They could remember them. They could learn from them. But they did not have to live inside them. One Saturday afternoon, Pat received an unexpected invitation. A group of old friends were organizing a small gathering. There would be dinner, music, and stories about their younger days. Pat almost declined. Then she changed her mind. She had spent too much time saying no to life. So she went. The evening turned out to be easier than she expected. Someone brought photographs from college. Someone else remembered a ridiculous party. Another friend told a story about an old professor who had once mistaken an entire class assignment for a personal letter. Everyone laughed. Pat laughed too. At one point, someone mentioned engineering. Pat became quiet. She remembered Glenn. She remembered the young man he had once been. For a brief moment, she wondered whether he had continued studying. Then she let the thought pass. She did not need to know everything. That was another form of freedom. She could care without constantly checking. She could remember without returning. She could wish someone well from a distance. Later that night, while driving home, Pat realized that she had spent several hours without thinking about what had happened. She had simply been herself. That felt like a victory. Not a dramatic victory. A private one. But perhaps those were the victories that mattered most. Meanwhile, Glenn had begun the next stage of his life. He returned to a world that looked familiar but felt different. He had a small room, a modest routine, a list of responsibilities, and a great deal of time to think. He found work doing something simple. It was not the career he had dreamed about when he was young. It was not engineering. It was not management. It was not anything impressive enough to make strangers admire him. But it was honest work. And for the first time, honest work was enough. His first paycheck was small. He held it for a moment before putting it away. There was no excitement, no celebration, just a quiet sense of accomplishment. He had earned something without pretending to be someone else. That evening, he called his counselor. "I got paid today." The counselor smiled. "How does that feel?" "Good." "Why?" Glenn thought. "Because I did it myself." That answer mattered. He was slowly learning to measure his life by things that did not depend on other people's approval. He continued his studies as well. He found a small community program that allowed him to take technical classes. He attended in the evenings. Sometimes the material was difficult. Sometimes he became frustrated. But when frustration appeared, he recognized it. He did not drink. He did not blame anyone. He did not walk away. He took a breath and tried again. The first time he successfully completed a difficult assignment, he smiled. He remembered the young engineering student he had once been. For the first time, he realized that perhaps that young man had never disappeared completely. Perhaps he had simply been buried beneath years of disappointment. Glenn did not know whether he would ever return to engineering. He no longer needed to decide. He only needed to take the next step. Pat's life continued to change too. She began taking more responsibility at work. Her confidence increased. She discovered that she enjoyed helping younger employees. She remembered how much David had once believed in her. Instead of letting that memory make her sad, she used it as motivation. She began mentoring someone new. The young woman was nervous about her first major assignment. Pat smiled. Do not worry about being perfect. I am terrified of making a mistake. Everyone makes mistakes. What if my mistake is serious? Then you learn from it. The young woman looked uncertain. Pat continued. The important thing is not whether you make mistakes, it is whether you are willing to admit them and learn. The words sounded simple, but Pat knew how important they were. She had learned them the hard way. Months later, Pat received news that Glenn had completed another stage of his treatment. He was doing well. The person who gave her the information said that Glenn had become more stable. He had developed healthier routine. He was working. He was studying. He was accepting responsibility. Pat smiled. That is good. Would you like to speak with him? Pat paused. Then she shook her head. Not yet. There was no anger in her answer, only honesty. She was not ready. And that was enough. The person on the other end of the conversation understood. Pat hung up. She sat quietly for a few minutes. Then she returned to her work. She was beginning to understand that boundaries did not have to be dramatic. Sometimes a boundary was simply saying not yet. Sometimes it was saying no. Sometimes it was choosing peace over guilt. That evening, Betty visited. Pat told her about the call. How do you feel? Relieved. Do you feel guilty? A little. Betty nodded. That will probably happen. What should I do about it? Nothing. Nothing? Let it be there. Pat smiled. You make everything sound simple. It is not simple. Then why do you say it like that? Because if I say it dramatically, you will worry. Pat laughed. Fair enough. They sat together by the window. The conversation drifted toward other things. A restaurant they wanted to try, a movie they wanted to see, another trip they might take. Their plans were small, but small plans were good. Small plans meant the future had returned. One afternoon, Glenn was working on a technical drawing when he received a phone call. It was someone from an engineering company. They had heard about his study. They were not offering him his old career. They were offering him an opportunity to assist with simple technical work. Glenn was silent. You do not have to decide today, the person said. Glenn thanked him. After the call ended, he stared at the paper in front of him. Years ago, an opportunity like this would have seemed too small. Now it felt enormous. He accepted. His first day was awkward. He was nervous. He made mistakes. He asked too many questions. He apologized unnecessarily. His supervisor eventually smiled. You do not have to apologize every time you ask something. Glenn laughed. I am trying to get used to doing things differently. That is fine. The work was not glamorous, but Glenn enjoyed it. He was building something again. Not bridges yet. Not the great structures he had once imagined, but something. And perhaps that was enough. He went home that evening tired. He sat at his small table. He looked at his hands. For years, those hands had represented what he believed he had lost. Now they represented what he could still build. He opened his notebook. He wrote a single sentence. I am not finished. Then he closed the book. Across town, Pat was preparing dinner. She received a message from Betty saying she would be late. Pat smiled. She put music on. She began cooking. For a moment, she thought about Glenn. She wondered whether he was doing well. Then she smiled and continued preparing dinner. She did not need to know. She trusted that he was learning. And she was learning too. One evening, almost a year after the events that had changed their lives, Pat and Betty returned to the restaurant where they had once shared a difficult meal. The place looked exactly the same. The tables, the lights, the menu, even the waiter seemed familiar. Betty looked around. Are you all right? Pat smiled. Yes. Really? Really. They sat down. Betty opened the menu. I think I am going to try the lasagna. Pat laughed. Of course you are. You recommended it. I did not. You did. I absolutely did not. They laughed. The waiter approached. Have you decided? Betty looked at Pat. Pat looked at Betty. Then they both laughed again. The evening was simple. There was no fear, no argument, no need to leave suddenly. No one was waiting for a phone call. They were simply two friends having dinner. Pat looked around the room. She remembered how frightened she had once been. She remembered believing that she had no control over her future. Now she understood something different. A person could lose years to fear and still find a way forward. A person could make mistakes and still learn. A person could love someone and still walk away. A person could forgive without forgetting. And perhaps most importantly, a person could begin again. When they finished dinner, Betty suggested dessert. Pat shook her head. No. Why? I am full. That has never stopped you before. It should. Betty looked offended. This is not the Pat I know. Pat laughed. Fine. One dessert. 2 forks? Of course. They ordered one dessert, 2 forks, and shared it. Outside, the night was calm. They walked slowly toward the car. Pat looked up at the sky. There was no grand conclusion waiting for her, no perfect ending. Life did not work that way. Instead, there was something better. There was another morning, another chance, another choice, another opportunity to be kinder, to be wiser, to be honest, to laugh, to love, to live. Pat opened the car door. Before getting inside, she looked back at the restaurant. She smiled. The past would always be part of her story, but it no longer held the pen. She did. And this time, she intended to write the next chapter herself.